Mark Kisla. Take a load off. Mark Kisla wrote in today's Denver Post, he believes the Nuggets' choice for a head coach is down to two guys, Mike D'Antoni and Melvin Hunt. A, do you agree with him? And B, if it is down to those two guys, who you like?
Well, I was over there today, actually, with Mark Kisla and Chris Dempsey, and we spoke with Josh Kroenke. And he wouldn't reveal names or anything like that, but he talked about how the team has been talking to a lot of different people around the league. And the thing that stood out to me from Josh Kroenke is that...
For jobs or for help?
Both.
I mean, really?
Don't touche, but both. Yeah. The thing that caught my ear was that I asked, and we've talked about this on this very show, the idea of, do they need a stopgap coach? And I know we joked that Melvin Hunt was the stopgap coach, but do they need a guy to kind of usher them through a rebuild, and then they bring in a big name? And they said to me, no, that's not the mindset.
I don't like that at all.
Well, I'm just saying that he said that's not the mindset.
When you hire a coach, you assume, you hope you're getting a guy that'll be the coach for the next 10 to 20 years
Right.
and will lead you to a lot of success. You don't go looking for a coach thinking, well, I'll keep him for 2 or 3 years and then when we're ready to win, we'll change him out. You know what that is? That's expansion franchise thinking.
Right.
That's how expansion franchises
Or
work.
it was Broncos thinking at one time. What is the most famous incident of that type that's happened in Broncos history or sports history here? It was a decision made by an owner, Pat Bowlen, to hire Wade Phillips to hang around as a head coach for a couple of years until Mike Shanahan would decide to take this job. So it has happened before. Wade had a 500 record in 2 years, got into one playoffs, and then they went and got the guy that they'd already offered the job to, because Mike, after a couple more years, was ready to come home. So.
And Wade proved to be a not very good coach. Now, if Wade had been a much better coach in those 2 years, he might have been the coach for a while. He might have been. I mean, it's hard to fire successful coaches. Although the Broncos did that with John Fox.
Wade has proven over and over again.
Him,
Wade has proven, and to quote him, I was a lousy head coach. Well,
true.
He
made
was
the playoffs a few years,
stopgap, but he was a stopgap coach.
All right, so
but to the Nuggets.
Melvin Hunt, Mike D'Antoni. Who's the better coach? Who's the better coach for this team
clearly,
right now?
Yeah, I mean, neither name makes me jump out of my chair. I will say that I think D'Antoni, in his glory days at Phoenix, proved that he could win with the speed. But honestly, I'm not really excited about either one. I guess I'd go with Melvin, just because it's his first job. He's proven he can motivate those guys.
It was Brian Shaw's first job. How well did that work?
Especially
when you consider a young GM and a young owner.
No,
and now you've got a young, from an experience standpoint, head coach.
Well, the real owner's not very young. So
touche.
Keep that in mind.
So yeah, I mean, both guys would be fine. I mean, I've said it before. Scott Brooks should be the new coach of the Nuggets. Overpay for him.
Well, what we were told yesterday is Scott Brooks is going to take a year off and be an analyst. He's going to be like George Karl, and he's following George's footsteps here, and wants to go work for ESPN or TNT and whatever. I don't blame him. He's going to get paid. Mm-hmm. Mike Shanahan's done it. I mean, there are thousands of coaches since we mentioned Mike Shanahan. Big coaches that say, "Oh, I'm going to get paid for a couple of years. Why don't I take off?" If somebody here would pay me for a couple of years, guess what? I'd take off, and you could be here every day.
I like Melvin Hunt, all right? I believe he can coach, and I like being around him.
Okay.
But Mike D'Antoni is Melvin Hunt 2.0 from a number of standpoints. Number one, Mike D'Antoni has had success in the league.
He's had failures, too.
Well, he has, but under very trying circumstances in New York and L.A. And might I remind you, he not only took the Phoenix Suns to the playoffs and was the coach of the year there, he did take the Lakers to the playoffs. He did take the Lakers to the playoffs, all right? Number two, if you ask the fan who might be a more exciting head coach, get this team really running again, hyper speed, that would be D'Antoni versus Melvin Hunt. D'Antoni has proven he can do that when he's got the horses. So that might sell you a few more tickets than Melvin Hunt. I think if you hire Melvin Hunt, and no offense, Melvin, people are going to go, okay.
Yeah, I'll just throw this out really quickly, though, and not to get too advanced stats on you, but even when the Nuggets had Brian Shaw, they were among the league leaders in pace. What they weren't among the league leaders under was efficiency. So they were still pushing the basketball, but they weren't efficient, notably in the offensive.
What that means. What does that mean?
Well, it means they were still
pushing the pace,
but when things broke down off that and they couldn't score on the fast break, clearly, as we saw in many of those games, the Nuggets did not have a half-court team. So the question is, whether it's Hunt, whether it's D'Antoni, whether it's Woody, I mean, this offense has to be as efficient as it is fast.
This segment is sponsored by the Blake Street Tavern, 3 bars under one roof. It is the biggest sports bar I've ever seen in my life. 18,000 square feet, 60 HD TVs, located 1 block east from Coors Field. It's been named Denver's best sports bar 3 years in a row by Les and Woody. That's Blake Street Tavern.
Love hanging out at Blake Street.